Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Whether we are out riding with our friends and family or racing in extreme environments, we all need good tires. That's why I recommend GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp. Their products, which include XC Master, Mini Master, and Groundbuster 3, are what leading professionals in the ATV-UTV industry are using. You can get your tires at greenballtires.com or find them on Instagram as GBC Tires for further inquiries. Are you looking for the best suspension technology for your sport ATV? Look no further than Elka Suspension, the industry leader in sport ATV suspension technology. With championship wins in prestigious events such as the Dakar Rally, SCORE, Best in the Desert, ATV MX, Cross Country, and Works, Elka Suspension has established itself as the go-to choice for athletes and enthusiasts alike. But they don't just stop at ATVs. They're constantly expanding into new markets, including UTVs, trucks, SUVs, pit bikes, snowmobiles, and more. Their commitment to innovation and quality means they're always looking to improve and adapt so you can enjoy a smooth ride wherever you go. Want to learn more about what Elka Suspension can do for you? Visit their website at elkasuspension.com or give them a call at 450-655-4855. They will always be happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect suspension solution for your needs. Jake Hickman, welcome to ATV Talk. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, we met because of ATV racing and District 38 here in the local Southern California area. There was a machine that I was selling, and you were interested in it, and we got to talk about it. You had some sponsors purchase it for you. And how's District 38 been going for you?
It's been really good actually. I'm in my I think this is my fourth season now. I started when I was 26. I think I was 26, and I started on my Raptor that was stock. It was just a stock 700, and I kind of wanted to try it out, and it was really good in the beginning, and then I realized how rough it was racing that stock machine in a District 38 race for a couple hours. And I got second that first year in the championship, and then the last couple of years I've gotten first, and I transitioned to that 450 halfway through my second season, and that made a lot of difference on comfortability and kind of endurance, because the Raptor beat me up so bad, and the 450 was just such a different machine and just so much more comfortable.
That it's a nice, everything that it's branded as it is.
Exactly, yeah, just with the parts that are put on it and the way it's set up, and it's just been, I never rode anything that was built like that until that bike. So once I felt that, it didn't even make sense to me almost, because I've been riding for so long and just riding stock quads and having a blast on that, and getting on something like that, it was a night and day difference. It was I feel like I'm still getting used to it almost. And it's been a while now.
I believe it. I believe that. You know, I want to also get into a little bit of your back history so that the listeners understand where you come from, you know, and that a portion of that is your service to our country. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how that came to be so that we can find out a little bit more about you.
Yeah. I joined the Army National Guard up in Washington like 2 weeks after I turned 17 with a couple friends of mine. One of our buddies, was his stepdad was a recruiter in the unit that was kind of a local thing, and um, it kind of just sounded like a good gig because it wasn't a full-time active thing, but it was also you could learn a lot of skills and kind of learn discipline. And it was good for me at that age because I wasn't a bad kid, but I didn't really have much direction. So it was something that started me in the right direction, I'd say, at 17. And so I joined the Guard up there in Washington, went to basic training in South Carolina in the middle of summer. And I complain about the heat every day here in San Diego because I work in it. And it's nothing like what it was in South Carolina in the middle of summertime with the humidity and just the bugs and the constant just heat that was there, even at 3 o'clock in the morning. But so I did my training over there, and then I came back to Washington for a couple years as a motor transport operator, which was basically just like a glorified big truck driver. All the trucks that you see kind of going down the freeway with big tarps over them and big loads on the back, whether they were carrying a trailer or not. That was my job for a couple years up there. And then when I moved back down to San Diego, where I'm originally from, I had to find a new unit. So the unit that I joined was in Kearney Mesa, and it was an infantry brigade combat team. So they didn't have the job that I had already been trained to do. So I had to go reclass to a new job. Went to Missouri for 6 months and became a geospatial engineer, which was a big difference from what I was doing before. Before was a very truck driver, mechanic kind of job. And then I switched to a computer job that dealt with data and imagery and map stuff. And that was super cool. I really enjoyed that. I just didn't really care for the sitting at the computer all day, staring at the screen kind of bothered me. And I had a chance to do that in the civilian sector, but I kind of decided not to because I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. But I ended up spending, I don't know, 5 or 6 more years doing that in San Diego. So I ended up getting out after 8 years, and I made sergeant, which was kind of my goal to at least make sergeant, get out. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Got a lot of cool experiences.
Did you deploy anywhere, or was it all just local?
No, it was mostly local stuff. I did go to Germany for some stuff, and nothing out of the country besides Germany, and there was no combat stuff. It was just local local aid stuff when I was in Washington, and then nothing really down here in San Diego other than the Germany trip, which was it was cool. It was work, but it was cool.
When they sent you back east for 6 months, was that all active duty time? Where you were just, you were really in the full-fledged military, full on, and that's all you did every day?
Yeah, yeah, it was 6 months, 6 months and a week of that, and it was a little bit different of an environment because I wasn't in training like the people that I was going through the course with, they were all in their initial training coming out of basic training, whereas I'd already been in for a couple of years. So I got treated a little differently, and I wasn't going through kind of the initializing process still. So I had a little more privilege than them as far as where I got to stay, and I got the opportunity to come and go for lunch, whereas they had to march to the DFAC and go get lunch. And but yeah, it was get up every morning, do PT, go to class until about 4 o'clock, and then do homework for another couple hours and study up and make sure that you pass the test because your unit's paying for you to go all the way over there. And if you come back because you failed out, then it's not really the ideal situation. So there's a lot of pressure to make it happen. And but it was a good thing. And I learned a lot, and I actually graduated top of my class for that. And it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Do you miss the PT every morning?
A little bit because it was forced on you. You didn't have the option, so you had to get it in. Um, it's kind of that bittersweet. I miss it because of the structure, and I didn't have a choice but to work out in the morning. And now I kind of think back to that as I kind of wish that I still wish that I was told to work out almost every day versus the not work out every day. But
Instead of honey,
yeah,
take the trash out.
yeah. So it's 50-50. It was cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, the military in general, I miss it and I don't miss it at the same time. So it's almost evenly down the middle, 50-50.
How cool would it be if your job had physical training before you went out to the job site?
Are you ready for your next vacation adventure? Step into the heart of Arizona's natural splendor with a tour of Antelope Slot Canyon. Ideal for photography enthusiasts and nature lovers, our tours offer a unique journey through a landscape sculpted over millions of years. Let our expert guides lead you through the swirling sandstone. We're going to have to do it. Let our expert guides lead you through the swirling sandstone formations where every turn reveals stunning light displays, geological marvels. Secure your spot now at Antelope Slot Canyon Tours and prepare to be awed by the canyon's mystical beauty. For details, please visit us at antelopeslotcanyon.com.
I mean, probably not that cool to be honest with you, because my job during the day is all physical training. So I'm good with what I get for my 8 or 9 hours and get to come home and relax.
Did any of your training in the military set you up for what you do today?
Not at all. No, not even a little bit. Um, and that's okay, because what I was doing in the military, as far as my job, that was kind of, I would say, specific to what I was doing for the military. And what I do now is there's not really a military version of that job, which is fine. But I would say the work ethic I got from the military helped me in my job now for sure.
That's awesome. Do you know? I know I talked to some of my friends that are former military, whether it be Navy, Army, Marines, whatever, and some of them, for a number of years after they've gotten out, are still on what is like a call status, where if there was a war or something major happened, they could be called back for active duty. Is that true for you as well?
It's not because of the way I structured my time in the military. A typical National Guard contract is called a 6x2. So you do 6 years of actively drilling and doing annual training in the summer and taking leadership courses. And then after those 6 years, you're technically separated. You turn in all your gear and you're not doing anything with the military anymore. But for 2 more years, you are on the inactive ready reserve list. So in the event of a big war or a big natural disaster where they need more people, you can be called in. So what I did was I extended for 2 more years of active guard. So by the time I got done with my 8 years, I didn't have to go into IRR, and that was kind of nice. Instead of wondering for 2 years if I'm going to get called back and have to go back into it, and how is that going to work. And so my 8 years, at the end of my 8 years, I was done. I have heard that if something major were to happen, they would call back people that have separated in the past couple of years, just because they've had some kind of training already, and they can kind of jump into the flow a little better than trying to get a draft going or something like that.
Wow, that's cool. That you did you structure it that way on purpose, or was it just something that you did?
Um, a little bit on purpose, but at the same time, I wasn't sure if I was going to try and do a full 20 years and make it a career, or if I just wanted to I kind of gave it 2 more years because I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do, if I wanted to stay in or not. So I ended up doing the 2 more years, and at the end of that, I kind of decided I didn't want to. I was almost halfway at that point, and I didn't want to continue doing that because it really takes away a lot more of your time because it's tricky with the guard because you're what they call a civilian soldier. So you have a normal day-to-day job, but then your weekends and summers get taken away by going to drill and getting phone calls, and you can't really, it's hard to juggle. And at the time I wasn't married and I didn't have any kids. I still don't have kids, but I'm married now, and I know a lot of people do it and they have families and they just continue on and they keep juggling it, and but it just wasn't really interesting to me to do that. And I didn't, that kind of lifestyle, I'd rather just work a job and kind of have the time that I know I'm going to have, rather than wondering if I have to go away for a couple weeks because I have to go through another leadership course, or if the unit's going to deploy and I disappear for 9 months when it's not necessarily convenient. So that was kind of the thing for me, was just trying to think ahead into about the age I'm at now. What am I going to want to do? Because I didn't want to get out after 16 years of service when I'm that close to a retirement. So I kind of decided, rather than go halfway and feel like I have to continue on, I'd rather just end it there and kind of call it a day.
Well, as long as you learned from it, that's a good thing. You helped your country and you learned, and made you a better civilian, because now you're productive in society. How did
Right.
you hook up with your current employer?
It was actually through an old family friend of ours. His name is Mike Hallett. He's an old desert racer. I've him and my dad were very close friends through high school, and when we were young, his family and our family would go out to the desert and we'd go ride dirt bikes and quads, and that was what we would do every other weekend at one point. And um, once I had come back down to San Diego when I was about 19 or so, I told him I was looking for a job and I wanted to kind of do something with my hands and be outside. So he set me up with the company I work at now, and I've been there for almost 10 years now, and it's been great.
So while you were in the Guard, you were also working for this company.
Yeah, I did I think 4 more years after finding the job I'm at now in the Guard, and luckily they were good enough and understanding enough to let me go and do my 4 day drill weekends and leave for 2 weeks here and leave for 3 weeks there. And they understood it was for a good reason. It wasn't just to go sit on the couch for a month.
Right, right. I mean, you weren't you weren't having pizza pockets and playing video games. You were physically doing something good for yourself and the country. That's I believe that they're patriots. I've met them. They seem like great people.
Yeah, they are.
They're also a huge sponsor of yours.
Yeah, very huge. They're the reason that I have the Honda 450 that I have. Um, and without them, I wouldn't have that, and I'd still be getting beat up on the Raptor. And I'm thankful for that.
Nice, nice. What's the company's name?
Patterson Brothers Lighting. They're out of Lakeside. It's a construction streetlight company. Um, a lot of electrical work and trenching with machines and drilling holes and concrete and stuff like that.
So you're outside, did you, well, let me ask you this. Did you have to go to some type of electrical uh union school or anything like that, or trade school, to learn the electronics?
No, it's very hands-on and you kind of learn as you go. Um, and you get taught by the guys that know what they're know what they're doing and have been doing it for a long time. And there is the option to go get certified as an electrician and crane certified, and you can get all kinds of certifications nowadays. But the company itself doesn't require any of those, and it's kind of nice not having to have a big stacked resume to start at such a great place.
So, are those things that you are actively working for, those certificates, so that if you ever needed to transition to another company, that you would have those? And when would they support you to get the further education?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not currently pursuing it because right now I don't need it, but I have thought many times if something were to happen, it would be really great to have those certifications in my pocket to be able to use anywhere if anything were to happen at the company. I'd be able to pick up and start something different rather than trying to weed through all the grass and find something decent enough to where I'd be happy. So and they 100% would support pursuing that stuff, which is really cool. The support that they provide is unmatched, honestly, which is motivation, and what they physically do for us is really great.
So you've learned how to operate cranes and do the electrical and drill through the concrete, with the machinery that you have, all self-taught by, or all taught by the higher ups, or the journeyman in the company.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like I said, it's not required to have the certifications. It would be better. And I think there's a little bit more of a liability protection to have those things because we are using some of that stuff, but it's not a requirement, and it's the training that I mean I got in my first couple of years was very good. The Mike, actually, the guy that helped me find this job, was my foreman for the first couple of years, and he was the one that trained me and showed me how to do things properly and safely and effectively, and kind of putting all that together to create something that is efficient and it makes money for the company, and you feel like you did something at the end of the day, that you didn't just sit around and stare at the clock, and been a good thing.
Right. That sounds awesome. So, let's roll into your background history on ATVs and motorcycles. It started when you were very young.
Yeah, I think I was 6 or 7 years old, and my dad came home from Motor World with 5 brand new quads on a brand new trailer. He had bought him and my mom Yamaha 350 Warriors, and then he bought me and my twin sister Yamaha 80 Raptors, and then he brought my younger brother, who was probably 4 years old, a little 50 Raptor, and with a little leash on the back of it. And as soon as we got that, um, he had bought a motorhome just before that, and we started going out to the desert, making trips out there. And of course, my first trip out there, I rolled the quad doing donuts because I didn't understand center of gravity and what happens if you hit the throttle and turn as hard as you can without leaning. And so it was kind of a thing with Mike Hallett and his family and my family. We would every couple of weeks we go out to Placer City and Caney Gorge and just spend the weekend out there riding, go on long rides, and what I thought were long rides then, which are nothing now. But yeah, and that was kind of it. And we did that until I was about 13. That's when I moved to Washington, and I kind of inherited my mom's quad up there, the 350, and rode that all over the place, all over the mountains up there. And then finally came back down here, bought myself my first Raptor, which was a 2005 660, and it it wasn't in the best shape, but I was like 19, and it was what I could afford at the time, and throw in the back of my truck and go ride it, and it was great.
And the love of riding is just something that was developed at a young age, and you keep doing it.
Yeah, and always wanting to go fast as a kid, and uh, my sister was pretty gritty for being my sister. She didn't really hold back too much. She wanted to go fast too, and one of Mike's daughters, she wanted to go fast, and it was really cool because she was a couple years older than me. So she kind of pushed me to go faster when I didn't realize I could go faster. And then I'd get on a 250 at that age and it felt like a whole different machine. And it's always been there. I've always loved riding. And I'm happy that I continued to hold on to bikes and buy bikes when I didn't have a bike, and make sure I always had one, and find people to go out with and do some riding. And it's,
And it's something you're looking forward to doing with your hopefully up and coming family?
yeah, absolutely. I've thought about it so much. I really hope that they find interest in getting on something and going and riding, whether it be a dirt bike or a four-wheeler, just anything. It would just to be out in the desert and experience the tranquility of being out in the desert, as long as it's not windy, of course, but just how wide open and quiet and just kind of beautiful it is. And then being able to go fast and get sweaty and dirty at the same time.
Does your current wife, your wife, excuse me, does she enjoy riding?
She says she likes it. We had a little Honda 400 for her for a little bit, and she never really got the young age adaptation to it. So she was kind of learning from scratch. And we went out a couple times and she liked it, but I I'm not sure if she really liked it, because we ended up selling the bike because she didn't really want to get on and come out as much. But I know that I kind of screwed it up a little bit because I'd want to go fast and I'd forget that she's a rookie and wants to go slow and check things out and feel it out. And so I might have given her a little bit of a bad taste right off the bat, but she's not against it. It just wasn't something where she wanted to have a bike that's just going to sit most of the year other than one or two trips. So
Sounds like you're gonna. It sounds like you're gonna be buying her a cage.
I don't know. I've brought that up too, and I'm so disinterested in getting into a car and buying one. And it's just I kind of I like being behind the bars and sitting on a seat, and I don't know, being in a side by side is just kind of not for me. And she gets motion sick, so I don't know if she would enjoy that either unless she was driving, and we wouldn't figure that out until we bought one. So we've got bigger fish to fry in the next couple of years, I think.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, you got to go try it because I've driven numerous, many of them, and it seems like everyone I drive ends up on its lid.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's
it's
not
easier to
for.
do than it seems.
Well, it's just not for me. I'm just not. I'm just not that guy. I mean,
Right.
I ride ATVs and motorcycles. I'm totally into that. It's just not the UTV thing. I keep trying to drive it like an ATV, and you can't.
Right. And that's where I'd screw it up. So I'll stick to my quad. If she shows interest in wanting to get something and go out there, I'll jump on it because that's what I want at the end of the day, is to be able to take her and future family out there and experience what I got to experience when I was young. And but if she's not into it and the future kids are not into it, then that's it's okay if it's just my thing. That's all right.
When you were young, were you introduced to District 38 at all?
Not at all. I think I had heard of races going on out at the desert on a weekend that we'd be out there, but I I never really understood that it was just kind of random Joes doing it. I kind of always assumed that they were the best in the world and they were getting paid and they were on teams with huge sponsors, and it didn't it didn't register into my head until I was 26 and started racing, basically, that that was just normal people paying their race entry fee and their membership annually and going out and just racing, whether they were fast or slow. It just I don't know why I should have looked into it earlier. I wish I would have at 18 or 19, but I just kind of didn't. I was focused on work and doing other things in the guard, and it just, yeah.
And so when you were out riding as you got a little older, uh, how did you get hooked up with going to District 38?
Well, that's Mike Hallett again, working with him every day and being in the truck with him. I remember telling him that I wanted to race because everybody that I ride with, no one wants to go fast. And I like going fast, and everyone gets tired and they complain about their thumb or whatever. And I kind of wanted to do a little more than just a casual 10-mile ride and then sit around for 3 hours. And I'm the first one with my boots on. I'm the last one to take them off. I was always just, I really wanted to do more than just those casual rides. So I had kind of brought that up to him, and he easily said, well, District 38, it's an Ocotillo. It's cheap. I used to race it back in the 80s. And so I looked into it a little bit, bought a membership, and it was right when I bought my new Raptor. Um, and I knew that machine would make it through a race. I wasn't worried about it. So that was even more of a reason to do it. And I jumped in it was the beginning of the season in January, and started that season, and I've been racing since.
And how did it go for you right off? I mean, did you fall in love with it, or was it something that you had to do it multiple times before you figured out that this is what you wanted to do?
Immediately it was amazing, and it was the thing that I'd kind of been chasing for years, was to go as fast as I can for as long as the race is and see what happens. And I think my first race, I did I was conscious enough of the situation. I wasn't going to go try and rip a hole shot, get over my head, and then crash in the first whoop section half a mile in. So I was very prepared to just see how it goes. I would just like to finish and see what kind of transpires and what does it feel like. And I remember being pretty beat after that first race, and it was a little more grueling than I expected because I hadn't really ridden like that for that long ever. Um, so it definitely opened my eyes a little bit, but I was hooked immediately, and I wanted to be at every single race. I didn't even realize that you could score points until like 2 or 3 races away from the last race of the year. So I had been like 7 races deep, and I hadn't even realized there was points in play. I thought we were just paying money and doing laps. And so it was cool to figure that out. And then I'm kind of naturally competitive, so I wanted to pursue the championship and see what I could do. And it's been fun, and it's the thing I look forward to every single month during racing season.
Nice, nice. And you know, your family or your work family has bitten off a big portion of your support. And how does that work out?
That's been everything. So my wife, for supporting me, has been huge. I mean, if she would have told me that she wasn't interested in me doing that, I don't know if I would have started out doing it at all, because it was so new and fresh then. But then as soon as I brought it up to the guys at work, Mike, old desert racer, very interested. Kenny, he's raced anything that you can race. He wants to be a part of it. And then some of the other guys at work that were just interested in what that was, what it meant to be in the pit. And yeah, I'll help you fuel. Yeah, I'll help you wipe off your goggles. I'll give you a water bottle. Like, just to come hang out by the campfire the night before and be in the pit. And that support has been everything, truly, because if I didn't have them, I wouldn't have gotten so established in District 38 and been at every race that I can make. And because if I didn't have guys to pit for me, I don't know if I'd go out. I mean, they're always there, and whether I have 2 or 6 of them, they want to be a part of it and kind of cheer me on and help with anything I need to do with the bike in between laps. And it's been great. The support's been awesome.
That's outstanding that you have a group of friends and acquaintances and coworkers that are all actively interested in supporting the racing. And, Kenny is also your employer, and
Mhm.
the fact that he loves racing as well makes it even more fun that you have build a relationship with these people, and then now your hobby is their hobby all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and some of the guys, they don't really know a thing about desert or quad or anything like that, and they're still out there just cheering you on. It's cool because I'll finish a race and like, what place did you get? I just kept seeing quads go by. I didn't know who was who and what. It's like it was funny because they just, I don't know, if you're a racer or you're very very competitive, you're paying attention to who's the first one to come in. Okay, who's the second one? Oh, he was 10 seconds behind him, and then the next lap, oh, now he's in front, and there's a 30-second gap. And, well, he had an issue. You're paying attention to all that stuff, and so half the pit is working that way mentally, and I'd say the other half is just kind of there for handing water bottles. But that is so important because some of those laps, when I've come through and there wasn't someone there holding a water bottle, it was kind of like, I need water. I have to go out for another hour. And so every single person that's involved with that has been crucial to making it kind of a well-oiled machine and making the race itself be a solid thing and it not be this mess every time I come in and no one's there. They're all sitting in the trailer because it's hot outside or it's windy, and they're all sitting there in their chairs and just getting sandblasted in the eyes, or they're sweating, and it's awesome. I honestly can't thank all those people enough for just being there and being a part of it.
How is it with Mike being a former District 38 racer, knowing a lot of the terrain? I know the machines have evolved quite a bit compared to when he raced, but his mentorship and teaching you about desert racing, how does that work for you?
That's been everything because he was the one that brought it up to me, and I went to him for a lot of, I had a million questions about how does this go? What do I do here? What am I supposed to prepare for this? And he's been through, he did Baja multiple times. He did the 1000, I think, a couple times, and he's very well versed in that. And he raced all of that stuff on a three-wheeler for the most part. So what I'm doing on this soft cushioning couch is much different, but he's been he's my go-to for the last couple years in the racing because he's the one that's done it, and I because he's done it, I can ask him all these questions, and he's got theories and he has ideas and he's got things where a lot of the times in races in the beginning, I wouldn't have a clue about how to mentally prepare for certain things, and all I could do was ask him what he thinks, and he would tell me, and I could take it or leave it. And a lot of the times I would take it, and it would pay out well. And it was, it's always been good to have him there. And that's another thing is I probably wouldn't have gotten into racing at all had he not kind of given me the information. And he's always talked about his past with racing, and it's something that I've always looked up to, and I want that. And maybe not at the scale that he did it, the long Baja races in the 80s on the stiff machines, but just racing in general and kind of being a part of that family because that's what it's turned into.
How is his mentorship working with the transition from the 80s machines that were really archaic in comparison to what you ride now? I mean, it is a night and day difference.
It is, but I'd say most of his mentorship has been through strategy and kind of how to approach a race or approach certain situations. I know he's brought up before he was never the wrench; he was just the hired gun, the guy that would go race, and um, just kind of giving me taking his past like moments and experiences and kind of translating it into just a smaller scale District 38 race has been kind of the main guts to it because that's kind of all he can give, because he didn't race a 2007 TRX 450R with stage 5 Elka shocks and the flex bars and the stabilizer and all these little adjustments, you know. So he can't really speak to that too much.
The machines
But
he rode were damn near rigid.
yes, yeah, hardtail, and that's something that I mean, I don't even know what that's like other than the stock Raptor, which I complain about that, and I'm sure that is a dream compared to what it was 40 years ago.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Night and day. The stock suspension has definitely evolved. And they raced 250Rs down there for years with stock suspension,
Yeah.
stock tires that came on them from the factory. You didn't have, like, you run a 6-ply special heavy duty tire for that environment. It's taller, it's wider, it's built for that environment. And they ran 2-ply freaking Dunlops, or O2s, that's what came on the machine, and that's what they ran.
Yeah.
You roll over a twig crooked and you pop a hole in the tire.
Right.
So there's quite a bit of differences, the amount of travel, things like that. You definitely benefit from that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have you noticed anything that you have to do different preparing yourself physically for the Honda versus the Yamaha?
Not really. I mean, if anything, I taking more of a relaxed approach to the Honda is more beneficial, because you don't have to squeeze the handlebars so hard. You're not getting the vibration all the way up to your shoulders, because everything's got a cushion or a spring, and it's definitely not as physically taxing. Um, the biggest adjustment, really, besides switching from a thumb throttle to the twist throttle, is kind of just understanding what the bike wants to do rather than forcing it like you could easily do with the Raptor on a stock bike, where it's kind of more unpredictable in the bumps and the hard turns and G outs and stuff like that. So um, with the 450, kind of figuring out where it wants to be strong, and adapting to the way it reacts to long whoops or short whoops or G outs and turns and stuff like that, and riding more into the top of the gear, like stuff like that, I would say is the biggest difference to me. And physically, I'm not as I feel like when I would come in off of a race with the Raptor, I would be so I would kind of be like a zombie, and I couldn't have any kind of communication with people, and I needed to just sit down for an hour and just kind of stare. Like it whooped me so bad. And I haven't had a race like that on the Honda, because it's a lot more forgiving as far as physically.
So when you were transitioning from the Raptor to the Honda, did you believe the information you were being given, that Honda was going to be the end all be all and be totally different?
I did, and I got there was a lot of hype about the idea, and a lot of that was me doing that because I'd never been on a bike that had, for one, the parts, and I always thought, why would you ride a 450 when you can ride a 700? Not realizing the difference in the race is not necessarily your top speed and being able to start in fifth gear, basically. um, and just figuring out that the 450, it takes a little bit more. I would say you have to get used to it a lot more than just being able to throttle in any gear on the Raptor.
Do you think what I'm trying to get at is, where, from what you said, the habits that you got into on the Raptor hurt you because they're not teaching you how to ride at a higher technical level?
Yeah, 100%. And I think I will forever be hindered by that. Always being on a heavy bike, kind of always being on a Raptor since I became an adult, kind of trying to work a stiff stock bike, and then jumping on the Honda, that it's something that I still get told by Mike that I ride the Honda like a Raptor, ride it like it's a heavy bike. And the way I approach things and all the pictures I could take, and you can see I'm kind of trying to pull up on the bars, where that's, you don't necessarily have to do that with that bike, because you let that bike work, and front end, back end, you kind of make it, you don't really have to do as much as you think you do coming from something like the Raptor. And I don't think maybe I've gotten better at figuring out the 450, but it's ingrained in me to ride it like it's a big heavy bike that I've got to keep the front end up in the whoops so that I can at least keep the back down and kind of go through them. Whereas the 450 likes to stay on top if you can get it there, and that's a hard transition for sure.
I can set that Raptor up for you, no problem, to where it'll do all
And
those.
that's been the thing that I've wanted to do. It's just now deciding where I put my money, whether I put it in the future family jar. And we just bought a house a couple months ago, and things have kind of changed. And of course, I'd love to build that Raptor with the full setup that I've got on the 450 and more. It's just, if I have the 450, maybe at some point I would love to do that with the Raptor. It's just probably not a very near future thing at this point.
Which I get that. I get that. You know, you're young, you're building a family, and technically racing has to take a second seat because you know, not everybody wants to say it this way, but it's a hobby.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I've accepted that it is a hobby, and I've been willing to drop it if I need to. You know, if I need to be, if I need to put my focus somewhere else, then I'm willing to drop that. As crappy as that kind of is, it is a hobby, but it's something I really love to do, and it's a passion, and it's the community that's involved with it is great, and everything that's come of racing has been awesome. So,
And I think that you're able to fit that in, you know, with, you know, some late nights and some uh, maneuvering of your life would still allow you to race. Maybe not race the whole season, maybe not race for championships, but at least get you down there racing, you know, and make it so that you're still, you know, participating in your hobby. That's the best part about it is you don't have to do it the whole schedule. You can do it to the races that you enjoy, to the events that you want to go to, and you know, just make it fun and make it happen. There's
yeah,
also in the desert stuff that's out there that, you know, you can divide up the cost with teammates.
hmm yeah, and that's actually one of the next things in a couple weeks now is the Vegas to Reno race that I'm going to be a part of, and that's the top of my bucket list for racing. Really, I'm not really interested in doing any kind of Baja stuff, at least right now. So Vegas to Reno, for basically since I started racing District 38, has been the goal and something that I really want to do before I stop racing, whenever that is. If that's in 2 years or 20 years, I mean, I want to have at least gone and finished a Vegas to Reno race, and being able to divide that up and kind of logistically figure it out to where it's not all on my shoulders is awesome. And that's kind of what we've got going on now, and I'm looking forward to it.
Vegas to Reno is one of the greatest bucket list races you can have because I think that as far as there's a few really cool races in the States for ATVs, and Vegas to Reno is one of them. They're getting ready to set up some stuff, you know, that are 1,000-mile races. I think that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, in the States to have something like that. If you're afraid to go to Mexico, I don't see that you should have a fear to race in Mexico, other than the only thing that everybody doesn't think about is the fact that if you go down in Mexico, you're going to a local hospital that will want you to pay There's no insurance. You're going there and you're going to pay. If you have to be transported back to the States, that's going to take some time. There's
Yeah.
logistics have to be taken care of. Countries have to be spoken to. Officials have to be talked to, and it takes a few minutes. They do a great job getting everybody transferred, but you do have to realize that that's one of the hazards about racing down there. They have great medical in some places down there, so that's not the issue. It's you have to pay the bill before they release you.
Right.
And that's the
Yeah.
part that catches some people, because we have insurance, I mean, we fight it out with the insurance company and pay on a payment plan if we have to. Down there, there's no payment plan. You're sorry, dude. We don't take checks,
Yeah.
we want cash.
Yeah. And I mean, there's always a risk in any kind of this race, like bikes, quads, UTVs, trucks. I mean, there's a huge risk associated with all that stuff. And it's something that I definitely think about now at almost 30 years old. And had I gotten into racing at 18 and got invited to come out and do a Baja 500 or a 1000, I probably would have done it without thinking twice about anything like that, and just gone for the experience and to go fast for hundreds of miles. I mean, now I guess I'm a little more reserved in my thinking and more conservative, thinking about, well, I got to go to work on Monday and I got to make sure I don't damage something of my body that I can't just work through. Like I can't be in a wheelchair trying to do the job I do. It doesn't work. So that's always present in my mind when I'm thinking about a race or I'm during racing. Kind of the difference between fully cracked through the whoops or 90% cracked through the whoops kind of thing. And it's just thinking about that. It's a real thing, and it's not an uncommon thing for guys to go down. So that's always something I'm aware of.
Well, you're racing, you're out there, you're being competitive, you're doing what guys do. We don't hunt and forage and fish and do all these things that we used to. Now we race, or we, have other dangerous hobbies that throw us on the ground. So, what are you going to do? Stop being a dude? No.
No, no. Gonna keep going and wearing myself out and getting sweaty and dehydrated and putting a beating on my machine and my body because it's fun. And I'm going to do it again the next month, and I'm going to do it again the next month. And
Exactly. It's awesome that you can have a hobby like that in our country, and it's an hour and a half drive from your house to the race, and you're comfortable in your truck, and then you're back home that night or the next day, showered, resting in your chair. It's a great thing. There's a lot of series where you race where you got a 15-hour drive home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky to be close and able to shoot back home real quick, unload my stuff, take a shower, and sit on the couch within a couple hours if I wanted to, and not have to worry about driving to the airport or making a 16-hour drive. It's nice that it's local and I'm able to kind of finish that, recover, and get right back into the swing of the work week and the normal personal home duties and whatever that may be.
Yeah, what you can get up early Sunday morning, drive down, sign up, race, and then frickin' be home Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, yeah. And you can make it whatever you want. You could go out there for the weekend and camp, or you could shoot out in the morning and you could leave as soon as you're done, or you could stay and watch the UTV race. And yeah, it's nice being close enough to kind of make that call and set up for it. You don't have to tow this big crazy trailer or anything like that. And I don't have that. So I just throw the bike in the back of the truck and go, and it's awesome.
Do you still pre-run the whole course?
No, there's zero pre-running. So the only touch of the course you get is the bomb run. About a half an hour before the race, you get to go out and basically you start at the starting line and you get to go see half a mile to a mile of the course. So you turn around, you come back, kind of figure out your line where you want to start, and that's all you get. And then you go out and race a 25-mile loop. And it's blind if you've never done it before. I've been out there a lot throughout my life, and then just in a couple of years of racing, I know most places that we ride and race are I've done it before in a race, so it's most of it's familiar. But the desert, the terrain changes in just a couple of days. You could have what was a nice smooth wash is now gullied out and square edges everywhere because they had a bunch of rain and wind, and it changed the entire geography.
Right. That's what I love about that place is it's never the same.
Yeah, and it's cool, but it's also without the ability to pre-run, that first lap it can be treacherous, and the guys that set up the course are usually pretty good, and they like to mark out any kind of danger zones and make sure that the guys that are coming through, especially if you're leading and you've got that adrenaline and you're still going to be safe as long as you can read the markers. And nothing there are some gotchas here and there, and stuff that even after a lap or two, you've done it already, but you can't memorize the entire thing, and then all of a sudden there's 3 markers that are gone because of either wind or someone's run them over, and you come up to something kind of surprising, and it's kind of have that oh crap moment, and you get a little spike in your heart rate for a second. And yeah, I mean,
That's what makes it all fun, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's awesome.
Well, it's just preparing you to race best in the desert because, there's no pre-running there. You can sign up and do like a fun drive run where you get in a Jeep or something and you drive, the course, 3 weeks to a month before the race. That doesn't mean it's not going to change. So you have a base idea, but I like the no pre-running. I think it evens the play on field for everybody. I believe when you
Absolutely.
go down all the time, there's too many cheat lines.
Yeah, if you know where the course is, I mean, there's checkpoints and there's people watching and stuff, but they can't watch the entire course. So,
right,
if you have the ability to go out Thursday night and pre-run for 2 days, where some other people have to show up that morning and don't have an idea of even where the course goes, it's different, and it's unfair. So I agree with you that it levels the playing field. It's just, it would be cool to get a lap in, but then again, I mean, that's a long lap, most races. So it also depends on your ability and your experience and how you handle it. Is everyone's starting at the same spot, same time, motors off, and that's as even as it gets.
and you'd have guys that would go down there and do 4, 5, 6 laps of pre-running, and just think how tore up the course is going to be after you have 30 or 40, 50 guys go do that.
Yeah. And there's certain places that, it takes 10 bikes or 10 quads to go over, and it's already a completely different corner, or it's a whole different spot on the course. And so, guys were just ripping around it for 2 days. I mean, it'd be a whole different thing, and it's already rough as it is, so why make it rougher?
Exactly. Well, you're going to have to let me know how Vegas to Reno goes so that I can tell everybody here that listens to your story. But Jake, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to thank you for your service when you were in the reserves. I really appreciate what you've done, learning from that, and, made your life better, made our world a little better. So thank you very much.
The team here at ATV Talk would love your feedback. Please email it.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV Talk Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.